Alright guys, welcome back for another video on HAIKYU Fly High, and today I'm going to do a build guide for Ohira. As per usual, I'll quickly go through all of his skills and also his resonance on whether it's worth duping him up or not. Then I'll talk about his memory, his potential, what are the best ones for him, and then lastly I'll talk about some team building tips and also rotation words, where do you want to position him. Okay, so let's start off with just a quick view of all his skills. His skills are pretty basic, to be honest. So skill 1, just this is very nice buff, but only when you are receiving a quick spike and also the opponent have to crit as well. So that's kind of why I don't really think it's that worth mentioning, because first of all, whether you will be the one receiving that quick spike, first of all, it's already a question mark. Then it has to be also critical, and also obviously has to be actually a quick spike as well. So there's just way too many conditions out here. So you can probably just ignore this vast majority of the time. If you're able to pull it off, then great. But vast majority of the time, this probably wouldn't even trigger. Then his skill 2, just a basic receive. The stats is pretty basic, but he does have that receiving ability. And you can also see from the label, he is actually a receiving label character as well. Okay. And then his ultimate hat, once again, nothing too strong about this, I guess. Some pretty basic in terms of scaling of the power, and then no additional effect. Okay, so his skill 1, 2, and 4 are all pretty basic, I'm gonna be honest. What makes him stand out a bit more is actually his skill 3, where he's going to have built-in awareness and also reflex. So that's your critical rate for both offensive actions and also defensive action. And you can already see from the numbers here, he is obviously much more dedicated to the defensive end, and that's kind of normally how you want to play it. He is one of those few cases of a wing spiker who is much more defensively built rather than offensively built, and that's kind of what, when it comes to team building, he's actually going to be very, very good when you already have, like, let's say, one major power spiker elsewhere on your team, and then therefore you actually want the rest of your team to be more defensive focused. Okay, so that's kind of all his skills. And then let's talk about his skill resonance. So his skill resonance basically makes him more of a support, because if you actually just take a look at all of his skills, it's all about himself, right? There's nothing about the team at all. However, skill resonance is where he starts to get some support skill. So the first one at Dupe 2 is nothing too crazy. When you perform a critical receive for Spike, which he will be doing quite a few times, because first of all, that's the way you're built. Be building it, and also at the highest level, he does get that built-in crit rate for both receives and also spikes as well. All right, so he's actually able to trigger this pretty nicely, and then you are able to further increase your setter's awareness and also strength for the next set as well. So this is definitely nice, because he will be able to pull this off quite quickly and quite frequently. But what makes him really stand out is actually more as skill resonance 4, which is 60, because whenever he also perform a critical receive for spike, once again he will be doing that a lot. You're actually able to reduce the player's ultimate cooldown by 2 necrosis. This is for your whole team. Okay, this is absolutely crazy. This basically made him like universally good for no matter what kind of team comp out there, because just imagine if you are able to, let's say, spam your ultimate receive from your liberal every other turn, or you're able to spam your ultimate block from your blocker every other turn. This is massive. And same thing will also obviously improve your offensive spikers. But if you do actually end up pairing a hero that's in your Shotozawa team with Yushijima as your DPS, then he is already capable of refreshing his own cooldown fairly frequently, even without this. So I think the value of this inside the Shotozawa team, there's still a bet, because you are able to, let's say, increase the frequency of Tendo's block and also Yamagata's receive, etc. But it's gonna shine even more outside of Shotozawa team, and that's kind of why I do feel like if you actually want to build him and you actually want to invest in him, it's not actually a bad idea, because even if in the end game, let's say you no longer want to play Shotozawa team, a 6-type hero can still be transferred easily into any other team, especially because of the fact that he's also one of the few receiving based wing spiker, and that basically means it's quite universally compatible with a lot of team lineups out there. So that's gonna be in terms of skill resonance. Then let's talk about potential. So because Ohira is kind of more defensive focused, you definitely want some receiving potentials here. Personally, you can also go all receive if you really want, but because if you actually want to build him in a shorter Zora team, you also want to just increase his crit rate as much as possible. So that's kind of why I am actually going with a full set of power vibe here as well, purely because you are also able to increase your awareness by 15%. So this is actually going to be quite nice in order for you to trigger both of, for example, reducing the cooldown of Yushijima's ultimate attack, or if you actually have Ohira at 6 Dupe himself to also trigger it, so that you are able to reduce the cooldown for all of your team's ultimate attack. So that's kind of why I am personally going for this, but there's also nothing wrong with, let's say, if you actually build basically all 6 slots with potential for receive. So basically a 4 set for receive and then another 2 set for different receive set, okay? But personally, I'm going with like 4 power or 4 crit for in terms of awareness and then another 2 for the receive. So that's basically the way I have built a hero. Then in terms of memories, so first of all, I can show you my memory is really bad because I haven't really focused on my memory much. You can see I literally only have 2 UR memory and 1 SSR. Everything else is SR, and there's no real good memory for my Ohira right now. So you can ignore my memory, my personal memory build. However, if you do have the resources, the best memory for a hero, there are kind of 3 options right now. Even though this one is not actually out in the game, I'm not sure how they're going to release it. But this one is quite nice because you are able to increase your awareness, and also when you perform critical play, once again, you'll be doing that a lot. You are also able to increase your strength by additional some percentage. Okay, so you will be able to reach the stack quite nicely, and also he does kind of benefit from that higher crit rate in terms of awareness as well. So this is definitely a good one, but this is not actually available in the game right now. So I don't know how the game will release it. But then the other 2, which are going to be good for hero if you happen to have them. This one is going to be this one for Iwazumi, and then this one obviously his own signature one for himself. This is definitely the best choice. This is much better than the Iwazumi one. Iwazumi one also find it a bit weird, but it can work for hero. Hero is probably one of the few characters which can actually make out of this memory. But obviously the best choice is going to be for his own signature one because you're able to increase your own awareness and reflex, which once again both of them are very important to him, and you will be able to do this up to 5 times. So this is basically just 8% flat increase in both of your crit rate for attacks and also for your defense. If you're actually able to dupe this up, this gets even much amazing, and this is one of the few memory which really appreciate some dupes in it. So that can also make it a bit expensive, but this is definitely the best memory for him. Okay, and then if you actually feel this is too expensive and you want to go for something which can be bought in the battle pass as well, then you can go in for this one for Iwazumi. Now this one, normally I am not a great fan of this memory because it's just a bit weird. Like you increase your own receive stat, but then you require the equipper to first of all crit on ultimate attack, which is also power spike, and then you are able to increase that by receive stats as well. So it kind of built it very weirdly in terms of that you need the character to both have good receives and also high crit rate, and also have a crit power spike ultimate. However, that kind of actually works for Hero because Hero is one of the few characters who can actually pull that off. Because Hero, first of all, because he is vast majority of the time going to be at the back receiving for you, therefore you normally want to build him with high receive stats anyway. So the first condition is kind of going to be fulfilled for him, and then he naturally already have high awareness, and also a lot of time you are playing him in a short authority, which further boosts your awareness rate. So it's actually going to be easy for, or relatively easy for you to actually trigger the critical power spike as well, and then therefore you're able to further buff your power when you do actually spike. So this, like I said, it's actually going to be one of the few occasions where this memory can actually see some love. So if you do happen to have it, this is definitely an okay choice for a hero. Okay, now let's move on to some team building tips for a hero. So before actually talking about which character have synergy with him in a team, I just want to briefly talk about positioning. Now, obviously, a hero is a receiver, so you want him to be at the back row for vast majority of the match. Now, the way you can do this will either be starting off him already in the first position at the back, so in the serving position, or one rotation away from the serving position. Because vast majority of the matches in this game tend to last for at least 3 rotations. So even even if you start him off in this position, he would definitely be rotated 3 times in the match, and therefore he will still be at the back for pretty much majority of the match. Okay, now out of the two options, personally, I like to have a setter in the serving position and then Ohira one rotation away, and the reason for that is purely because I have Ohikawa and also his UR memory, which basically when he actually do a critical serve or a serve ace, I'm then able to increase attack tempo, which is then going to be beneficial for the remainder of the match. So that's kind of why normally I prefer to use a setter here and then have Ohira rotate into it. Okay, so this is going to be some tips on the positioning. Now let's talk about the actual teammates. So the teammates you want for a hero is going to kind of depend on how many dupes you actually want your hero to be at. So obviously at 6 dupe, he is going to be pretty much universally good because he can just reduce the cooldown for everyone on your team by everyone's ultimate cooldown by 2 turns or 2 net crossings when he do a critical receive or critical spike. So that basically makes him universally good with kind of all of the characters out there, to be honest. However, at 0 dupes and also 2 dupes, he's going to be a bit more picky in terms of which teammates you want to do. Now, one team that he's always going to be very good in is going to be a Shiratorizawa based team. And already created a guide in terms of what exactly is the best Shiratorizawa team. So if you do need some help in terms of building that, then do check out my video. I will link that in the comment section below, and you guys can just refer to that. However, outside of that, he's still going to have very good synergy with certain type of players, okay? Now let's start off with, let's say if your hero is only at 0 dupe. So if your hero is only at 0 dupe, then what that basically means is that you don't really have any supporting passive ability, and instead you're kind of just using him for the fact that he's actually a good receiver for a wind spiker position. Now this is actually going to be quite important right now because we don't actually have many wind spiker who are actually good at receiving. However, eventually moving towards end game, for example, in Naruzaki have 2 wind spiker who are actually also very good at receiving, and then even further in the future we are going to end up in a situation if we follow JP update where we don't even have that position limit anymore, and therefore you don't even need to force a wind spiker to be a receiver. You can just play simply a different position instead. Okay, so that's kind of why Ohira right now does have that value of being a receiving wind spiker, but that value will decrease further down the road. So eventually you probably do want some dupes on him if you want that longevity in playing him. But right now, for the time being, in what kind of situation do you actually want a receiving wind spiker? That would normally be if you already have someone else on your team who is capable of taking care of your attack. Therefore, your wind spiker position can just be there for the receive or for the defense and doesn't need to actually do any spikes himself. So obviously some good choices would be, for example, if you have Yuhijima at dupe 2, he's able to spam his ultimate attack. If you have Bokuto, you are also at 6 dupe, then he's also capable of spamming his ultimate attack. So once again, if you have them, you don't really care about your hero doing the receive. Another good option is going to be SSR Hinata if you actually want to do a quick spike team, because once again at dupe 6, I believe, he's able to refresh the cooldown of his ultimate attack. So once again, if you already have him there to do all the attacks for you, you can have your hero to do the defense for you instead, okay? So that's what makes him stand out. So that's basically what you are at 0 dupe. Then if you actually 2 dupes, what he's able to do is that he's able to increase the crit rate for your setup when he's setting. Now vast majority of the time this probably doesn't matter too much. However, there are 2 characters this does actually benefit a lot, and that's going to be both version of Akashi. And the reason is Akashi have this gimmick where the SSR version is that when he crit, then whoever he sets the ball to is able to guarantee crit as well. So therefore you have a way to increase the crit rate for your setter Akashi is obviously going to be beneficial. So that's where 2 dupe or hero is going to help. And that's also kind of a similar story for the SP version of Akashi, because SP version of Akashi is that when he crits, he's able to transfer all of his crit rate to the spiker. So once again, if you're able to increase the crit rate for SP Akashi, not only are you able to boost his own crit rate, you're also then able to transfer that to the spiker afterwards as well. So once again, it's going to get a lot more value out of this 2 dupe or hero. So that's going to be some of the good ones with that synergy if your heroes are 2 dupe. And then if your hero at 6 dupes, like I said, he can kind of slot in anywhere. Basically, he will be even more beneficial for anyone who have a very strong ultimate attack and therefore is actually able to benefit from that. So anyone, for example, let's say SP version Bokuto, for example, have very strong ultimate attack. So obviously it'd be nice if you can actually spam it somehow. And then some other character, even Akashi, like if sorry, not Akashi, even Asahi, if you have some way of actually increasing his longevity, every single time when Asahi does an ultimate attack, he is able to buff himself as well. So obviously he's also going to be one very good candidate in order to pair up with Ohira if he's at 6-2. But obviously you have to solve that stamina issue for Asahi first. But obviously that's also going to be a good choice here. So yeah, so Ahira at 6 is kind of quite universal, and you can definitely build him that way if you want that longevity, because he can literally slot in anywhere, okay? But yeah, so those are going to be my tips and also guide on how to build a hero. Let me know if you guys find this kind of videos useful. I think he is the first character I've done. Oh no, I already created Nishinoya. But yeah, I'm trying to create a bit more character guides for very different characters in the game. Previously, I have only been doing it for UR characters, but now I think I'll also gradually expand to some of the very more common or meta SSR characters. So if you are interested in this kind of information, then do let me know what characters you want to see next. And also, of course, do subscribe and also like the video to, share the love.